Hello, and welcome to the last of your video recording lectures here in spring of 2020. We're going to talk about international marketing in this particular chapter. Now, this is not an international marketing class. We are an international business class. And the thing about this international business class that we've taken, we hit on a lot of topics. And the authors of the book, they hit on marketing and some of the other topics, almost fairly superficial. Some of the stuff you've had in Principles of Marketing. Other stuff you're going to go in a lot more depth with the international marketing class that we offer here at St. John Fisher. But one of the key things that we're going to talk about is some concepts on international marketing. We're really going to explore mostly international standardization, or what I would call global standardization approach, versus market adaptation. Keep in mind that most firms, most MNEs, use a blend of both market adaptation and global standardization. Some companies only go global standardization. An example would be Coca-Cola. And some companies only use market adaptation. An example would be Unilever or Procter & Gamble. So we're going to talk about that. Keep in mind the 4 P's of marketing: price, product, place, and promotion. Because as we adapt to different markets, those are some of the decisions that we need to make. So with that being said, I hope you enjoy your last lecture, and I look forward to seeing you all very soon. As I said in the introduction, today we are going to talk about marketing in the global firm. So international marketing, culture, political, legal, and regulatory environment to develop and drive revenue into the organization. Remember, marketing's job, marketing and sales, and usually sales falls under marketing. Marketing's job and their only job is to drive revenue into the organization. They drive revenue through pricing strategies, through new product development, through product strategies, through advertising strategies. Whatever they can do in order to sell product into markets is an advertiser or a marketer's job. So to begin with this chapter, we need to understand, and all of you should know this because all of you have taken Principles of Marketing or Marketing 221, but there really are 4 P's of marketing. There's product, there's pricing, there's promotion, and there's place or distribution. Those are the 4 strategies. And in addition to that, marketing managers are responsible for all 4. So when you look at marketing in a global organization or in global environment, there's lots and lots of decisions that a marketing manager should make. They could keep all 4 P's the same and have a global standardization. They could change one out of the 4 P's, maybe pricing. They have different pricing for different countries because of PPP. They might have different advertising. They might have different all 4, different product, pricing, place, and advertising. So all of these have a effect on how a marketing manager is going to do it. So it starts with market segmentation, and you marketing managers out there, obviously you know all about this. For you non-marketing majors, you've had this in marketing principles. Market segmentation is just simply taking a look at the market and splitting it up into different segments in order to serve those segments better. You can split them up really a whole number of ways. As you remember from principles, you can split them up demographically, geographically, geodemographically. You could psychographically, benefits, usage, and generational. Those are your 7 ways of segmenting a market. Generally speaking, oftentimes when you go into a global environment, you're looking at geodemographics. So you're looking at both geography and demographic profiles in order to segment the market. For instance, you might segment the market into, say, continental Europe or the EU, and then segment it different areas or different regions and then by income level or by generation or by sex or by another demographic variable or factor. So you might say, all right, I'm going to take continental Europe. I'm going to take a look at, say, Germany, and I'm going to target German females between the ages of 18 and 30. And that's your market segment. So there's a lot going on with regards to market segmentation. If you have a product that fits all segments, then you can really use a global standardization, like Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola uses a global standardization because just about every demographic, every region drinks Coca-Cola. So they don't have to do a lot of product segmentation. So we talked about this. Global market segmentation is a group of customers that share common characteristics across national and international markets. So look at MTV. Boy, I haven't seen that for a while. So we just talked about that. Depending on how you want to segment your market, you're going to take a global approach to that market segmentation. So now you've got, and this is what I talked about, now you've got really two things to consider. Do you want to have a global standardization approach, or do you want to have a global adaptation approach or market adaptation approach? Adaptation is modifying elements, one or more of the elements of the marketing mix. Remember the marketing mix: price, product, promotion, place. So you can modify one. You can have a different product. You can have a different price. You can have a different advertising campaign, etc. You can also take a blended approach. Look at McDonald's. McDonald's has the golden arches. McDonald's is really the same the worldwide. It's a fast food restaurant. They franchise it worldwide. They go to business pretty much the same worldwide, except for their products are different. So they take the four elements. Their pricing is about the same, given PPP. Their advertising and their distribution is basically the same, but their products are different. For instance, for those of you who have watched Pulp Fiction, you'll know that in Paris, they call a quarter pounder with cheese a Royale with cheese. And I've been actually to a McDonald's in Paris just to make sure. Because, they're on the metric system. They don't know what a quarter pound is. The other thing is, in Europe, they don't use ketchup like we use. They use basically a mayonnaise-based thing that they put on their French fries, and they use a lot of vinegar and oil for their French fries. They also have different products. They do more fish and those types of things, and they do beef over there. So basically, they're taking a look at almost a standardization approach, but then they're changing it. Even Coca-Cola, who takes a standardization approach, they vary their formulas slightly from different countries. For instance, I was in Prague. I was thirsty and I didn't want to have a beer. Generally speaking, I have a beer, but I want to have a beer. I bought a Coke and it tasted different. I mean, it was a Coca-Cola. It was in a can, but it tasted different in Prague because they have different tastes on the worldwide. So they vary it slightly. It still had the red can. It was still called Coca-Cola, but it tasted somewhat different. So management tries to strike some ideal balance between adaptation and standardization. So here's kind of a chart. I love this chart. You guys should study this chart. Love this chart because it talks about standardization and the advantages. The advantage to global standardization is you've got major cost reduction. You can use the same package, the same distribution, the same advertising. You don't have to recreate the wheel in every country. There's similar market segments, similar product. You don't have to recreate the wheel. Low cost. You don't have to spend a lot of time on your creatives, on your creative strategy, on your advertising strategy. So there's a major cost advantage to standardization. Adaptation, differently though, you are serving your market segment better. You are really fitting the needs of your four marketing P's: price, product, promotion, and place, to that particular customer segment. So you've got a better chance of selling products, more products, better chance of pleasing your target market, better chance of making money. However, your costs increase because you've got different creative strategies. You've got different product strategies. You've got to carry more inventory, those types of things. You got to comply with different government regulations. So your cost goes up, but you're serving your market segment more fully. So standardizations, when similar market segments across countries, you would use a standardization approach or close to a standard approach. Starbucks. Starbucks does a great job of using a global standardization. You walk into a Starbucks in China, and it looks like a Starbucks in Syracuse. They use, they set them up basically the same. Now, in China, they've got some of these mega Starbucks and these really nice ones. But for the most part, Starbucks does business the way they do. They sell coffee and some frappes and cappuccinos and all those other different drinks, coffee drinks. They sell the beans. They kind of go and use a standardization approach. Whereas, other products, certainly look at Procter and Gamble. They have different, and Unilever. Unilever sells Dove and those types of household products. They have different products for every single country and every single segment of the market. But that's what they do. They are very product-based and a very product-based type of organization. So even though the products are for the same type of household use, you have shampoos, you have soaps, you have cleaning products, etc. They have different names, different specifications. It's not a universal specification. So that is adaptation. Difference in natural preferences, different in tastes, difference in climates. Certainly you wouldn't, sell a snow shovel in the south of France. But you would sell a snow shovel in Germany and in Russia. So different laws, different regulations, different infrastructures, all those types of things are reason for adaptation. So again, we talked about this. It's a real balancing act between what do you want to adapt? Do you want to adapt all four of the product mix, or do you want to adapt just a part of it? And I've given you examples of Unilever adapts all four of the product P's. Whereas Dell balances standardization and adaptation, so does McDonald's, and so have some of the other global companies that we've talked about. Chevrolet, they use the same brand globally. GM use the same brand globally. Ford, Daimler Chrysler, but cars are much, much, much smaller in different European countries because the roads are smaller, there's more traffic, they don't have the wide open highways. Whereas, in Germany, you have those huge cars with huge engines because you're on the Autobahn going 120 miles an hour. So again, same brand, different products because of that. We did if you remember, way back in the Wayback Machine, our first case was global standardization versus adaptation versus Harley. Harley went into Europe with these big bikes that they have in the United States, and it didn't sell because Europe is different. They have smaller roads, they have narrower roads, they don't have these massive highways and byways like we have, and so those big bikes didn't work out. So iPad, boy, that's an old one. The point to this slide is Apple uses a global standardization approach because the iPhone is the iPhone. People use the iPhone around the world the same way. They use it for talk, text, social media, and mobile purchasing and mobile marketing. And so because of that, although pricing is a little different in countries because of PPP, purchasing power parity, it's basically the same price, just given purchasing power parity, and they go to market very much the same. Global branding, well-known brands such as Toyota, Samsung, Sony, Disney, those types of things are pretty much consistent, whereas other brands, Procter & Gamble, Unilever, and other brands like that are not what we call global brands. Different celebrities for different global brands based on where you are. You know, soccer's huge, so David Beckham was huge over in Europe. Yao Ming, huge in China. NBA is great, doing very big in China. So, you know, you got to take a look at, do I want a global brand like Nike? Do I want a global brand like Adidas? Or do I want to have individual brands for different countries? And then, of course, product development. We talked all about that, product development in different countries, etc. Do you want to keep the same product? How are you going to develop the product? How are you going to look at the needs of the company? Are you going to adapt your product based on the needs of the segment? And how are they going to be launched? All right, that concludes part one. I will be back with part two in just a minute.